Hi, this is Ryan Schultz. Welcome to Metaverse Newscast, where we interview the personalities behind social VR, virtual worlds, and the metaverse. My guest this evening is the talented Sansar scripter, Galen. Welcome. Thank you for coming in.
It's my pleasure. It's good to be here.
Yeah, let me shake your hand. I wanted to ask you to start off, can you tell us a little bit about how you first got involved with virtual worlds and what led you to Sansar?
Sure. Well, I couldn't tell you what year, probably around 1995 or so. I started learning about virtual reality. Well, what I would call virtual reality technologies, people wouldn't necessarily today, not the goggles and all, but virtual worlds. I got really fascinated when I think it was Netscape Navigator included the first VRML client. And I was fascinated.
When would this be? About what time? What year?
Oh, you put me on the spot here. I'd say 1994, 1995,
okay.
1996,
so
somewhere
way
in there.
Way back.
And back then, just like, writing HTML, an HTML page, you could write a scene as this markup language, XML-based markup language. And you could write little JavaScript scripts to move things around. It was pretty slick. But then other companies started building on this technology. I don't remember if Active Worlds used VRML. I think they used something proprietary. But I got particularly interested in one that's hard to find anything about anymore called Black Sun. BLAXXUN.
Oh, okay. Never heard of it before.
Most people haven't. I think partly because Active Worlds kind of overshadowed it. And in Worlds, was it? I don't even remember. There was another one that was head-to-head competitor with Active Worlds. A lot of people who are familiar with Second Life don't realize Second Life was nowhere near first to the game. They actually had heavy competition when they appeared. Come 2005, I got suddenly interested again when I saw a news report. I don't remember what channel it was, but there was just a piece about Second Life. I'm like, oh my God, it's come back. This virtual reality stuff, and now instead of just being something you do on your own, like a first person, just a single person game or something like that, this was it something about it resonated with me. It sounded like those other places, the ways that they did it wrong, Second Life seemed to be doing it right. So and it was free.
Yes.
I went in, I started looking around, and like a lot of newbies, I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I was kind of lost for a while, and then suddenly I started meeting creative people, and I'm like, yeah, this is the right bandwagon to get on.
Cool.
That was back in 2005. Stayed there for a great many years. Took a few sabbaticals along the way, and then Sansar came along, and I jumped ship from Second Life. Second Life is still awesome. It's hard to compare right now, but I saw Sansar as very likely the future and a whole lot of good here. And I thought, I want to stake my claim. I want to be an early adopter.
So what made you decide to get into the scripting business in Sansar?
I had, in Second Life, I had built my successful businesses all around scripts that I wrote in Second Life, going all the way back to the beginning, all the way back to 2005 when I started. I was learning it right away. I was very fortunate that I met a few people who knew a lot about scripting, and I learned a lot from them.
Okay.
Good mentors. But I never really was selling my technology per se. I was always using it to support my successful businesses. When I came to Sansar, it became instantly apparent that there was almost no interactivity to be found. I studied the scripting capabilities immediately, studied the documentation, which was pretty thin, looked at what was available in the store, and I'm like, it is obvious. It is obvious this is needed. It is obvious that there's all this beautiful content that could best be described as museums, static, quiet, contemplative. lacking any interactivity. I'm like, this has got to change. So that first day I started working on my first script, and the next day I had the first working door script. A few days later I had it as a commercial product. And I was off and running. I figured the best bet was to think modular, to create little units of functionality like Legos that could be stuck together by someone who is not a programmer to add complex behaviors.
Okay. So one of the projects that you're most known for in Sansar is the Hover Derby experience. I was wondering if you could talk us through how this whole idea for Hover Derby got started, and who approached who, and how do you divide? I've got so many questions, but basically my first question is whose idea was Hover Derby to start with?
You know what? I have to give Drax some credit here. You all know Drax from Atlas Hopping and from many other projects like 114 Harvest. Right. He saw a technology demonstrator of mine called Hover Park. I've since turned Hover Park off for some technical reasons.
I remember that one. I remember that.
That was a lot of fun. And Drax actually did one of his Atlas hoppings over at Hover Park. And he was like, "Oh man, I want to throw up. This is wonderful." and so he approached me after that, saying, "Is it possible to make some sort of game where people can, like, I don't know, shoot at each other from these hover platforms?" And my first impulse was to think, "Nah, that doesn't make any sense," because I was thinking very literally about the hover park, in which you're covering like a couple kilometers in all directions, and it was very difficult to control those hoverboards. So I thought about it a little more. I'm like, yeah, we could. So from a very simple kernel of an idea, I talked a little bit more with Drax. He said, "Well, you make the tech, we'll make a show out of it." I tapped Jasmine, whom I had worked with previously, and I'm like, "Jasmine, how would you like to work on this project? Make 3D models for us." So the three of us ended up working together on creating Hover Derby. Took quite a few months to build it up, but it was pretty exciting.
So you did the scripting, Jasmine did the mesh, and Drax does the promotion. Is that how it works?
That's how it was previously. Drax is no longer involved with Hover Derby, but yeah, he was instrumental. He was instrumental first in coming up with the idea, second in certainly helping us brainstorm through a lot of ideas, but third, Drax has unusual connections. He reaches out to people. He makes himself known. He has a lot of positive connections among Linden Lab and other people in the industry. So that was also instrumental, I think, in helping us, especially to get our technical needs met. Linden Lab saw what we were doing as pioneering. They wanted to make sure that we could make a good demonstration of their technology. So that was helpful.
Are they still donating prize money for the matches on Sunday?
No, we stopped asking for them. We also stopped for now hosting the Sunday matches. We made a strategic decision. This was already kind of in the cards. We have been intending to make a version 2. See, a whole lot of things have changed since when Hover Derby first came out. We were a lot more limited in what we could do with the technology. And now I've got a ton of experience, and we have a bunch of new features that we didn't have. So we have always had it in our plans to make a version 2.
Okay, so you're going to do a reboot, in other words.
That's right.
Okay.
And for those who are familiar with Hover Derby, this is going to be a very different. It'll be familiar. It'll be the same sort of game, but we're going to have a lot of other capabilities like automated things shooting at people, moving obstacles, multiple levels, or perhaps all out 3D. We're still trying to decide. And Jasmine's planning on making a whole new suite of graphics to support it all, 3D meshes and stuff. So we have big plans there. We just decided, let's just put it on hold for now. And when we're ready to get going with that, which hopefully is in a few months, we'll be off and running with that.
That's exciting. That's really great to hear. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago that I wanted to come back to, and that was you had a very interesting perspective on the use of a permissions system in virtual worlds and how you kind of had a theory about how Second Life became popular because of its permission system. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yes. I'm becoming like a bit of a broken record on this, but I am convinced that when you look at Second Life, you look at its history. When I joined 2005, there was already a lot of tech in place, but it was only right about then that it was really quickly ramping up in numbers. And there's a lot of things people have been asking for years, why did Second Life take off? Why did all of its existing strong competitors disappear? Why, right. And what does that have to say about Sansar? And not just Sansar, but all of its competitors as well.
Yes.
And when I look at all the different factors, like for example, Linden Lab chose to open up Second Life to be free. No need to pay for subscriptions. Yeah. So that almost certainly played a significant role in its rapid growth. But of all the things that I look at that made the difference, I am convinced that the combination of the internal economy, that is to say an easy way, and frankly, effectively cost-free way to do monetary transactions on a small scale, sub-penny scale, micropayments, and internal economy plus intellectual property rights. When we talk about permissions, it's implicit in Second Life. It's implicit, and yet I think people got to stop and think, what are permissions really on items that you sell? Well, what you're doing is you're giving a limited license to other people. This is not like I give you a file, on my computer. I give you a file containing the music I just recorded or whatever, and now you can do whatever the heck you want with it.
Right.
I have a digital rights management system implicit in these permissions. You can make copies, but you can't transfer anything to anyone. Or you can have a single copy of this sofa, and you can give it to someone else as a gift, but you can't make copies of it. That sort of thing. And to my thinking, this combination of micropayments and the permissioning system are the true engine that made Second Life take off. And the reason is very simple. Even though the vast majority of people in Second Life who've tried to make money haven't, so many, all of them have believed that they could, and they were willing to try.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reservoir just in Second Life alone, but ignore Second Life. There's a reservoir of people all over the world who would love to try to make money in Sansar or high fidelity or VR chat.
Right.
And Sansar is about this close to offering that. To help sort of support my claim here, take a look at the store. How many items are on there? It's over 10,000 now.
It's about 12 to 13,000 items now.
Okay. Look how many. There's a lot of experiences. I mean, like they'll say 16,000, but let's go with the publicly visible. There's about 1,000 experiences. That's people goofing around, trying stuff out.
Right.
There's probably, I think we could, if we were to go through it, we could probably find a couple hundred that are pretty decent, right? Not bad. But when you look at the store and you look at the sheer numbers of things, and to me, the reason why there's so much content in the store is obvious. It's the only place you can make money right now.
Right.
In the most direct, literal way. So as soon as Linden Lab makes it possible to hand another person, here's $5, and better yet, the ability to pay a machine some money, and have that machine do something practical, like let you in the door to a show, that is going to cause that is going to, in my opinion, that is going to be the critical thing that takes Sansar from its flat line to over the course of a year, a relatively rapid growth of
So you're
of
thinking
population.
that once Linden Lab implements a permissions and licensing system for Sansar, that's
Plus
going to
easier
be the
transactions.
catalyst. That'll be the catalyst that will attract more content creators and then more consumers as a result.
In this case, I actually, while the permissioning system is going to be important, I actually think it's not as important in Sansar's case right now. But I should amend that too. I actually think right now it's the ability to monetize experiences. It's the ability to monetize events that's holding Sansar back.
Oh, okay.
But I also want to broadcast a very clear message to Linden Lab. Please don't make your first priority to directly monetize events or directly monetize experiences. Please just let us transfer money. As soon as you let us transfer money, we can do things the hard way. We can literally accept, people paying at the door and invite them in. But,
right.
Let us accept cash directly and let machines accept money, scripted machines that can then do something. Because we have everything else that we need for the basics. Now, you talk about permissions, and Linden Lab has a very different idea in mind for Sansar than they had for Second Life.
The whole supply chain thing you're talking about, right?
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means or why that is immensely more powerful than what Second Life has.
Well, you said to me in our prior conversation that you thought one of the reasons that Second Life plateaued when it did is because they didn't really take it far enough with the permission system.
Right. The way I look at it, fundamentally, what Linden Lab did with their permission system, we'll ignore the money part for a second,
Sure.
But just the permission system, is they made it possible, in conjunction with micropayments, they made it possible for individual superstars to do amazing things. But they did not fundamentally enable what I'll call incorporation. They did not make it practical for large numbers of people to work together. Look in Second Life, almost every business you find, there's usually one or more commonly two people working together, and that's it. It's rare that you find 3, 4, 6, 10 people working together.
Right.
And when they do, it's almost always one person and their greeters / security people.
Okay.
And that's about it, right? But when you actually, try getting 20 content creators, pure content creators, to come together and make a product and sell it. And it's next to impossible. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is that I like to use the example of an automobile. It's kind of silly a little bit, but imagine you design a car and there's already an existing market out there for
Sure.
people who sell wheels. If only you could just buy those wheels and add them onto your car and sell your car with the wheels, how great would that be? But in the Second Life world, the equivalent of that would be I design a wheel and then, oh crap, I have to give a full permissions version of it to whoever makes the car. Do I
Right.
trust that person?
Right.
God, I don't know if I trust that person. They might cheat me. They might take my full perms, wheel and run with it, or add it into a freebie pack as just punishment, if they don't like me, or
And that's
for whatever
because
reason.
the permission system doesn't allow supply chain in Second Life.
Correct.
But you're saying that in Sansar, they have a chance to actually correct that oversight and come up with a supply chain economy.
Right. Now, they could do this in Second Life too, mind you, but I think that they're choosing to reserve that for now. So they want Second Life to be good at what it is and Sansar to have special things over and above. But setting that aside, the thinking here is by making it so a person can, without even necessarily getting permission from other designers, take their products and services, well, mostly their products, but yeah, their services too, electronic services. They could actually package products and make sure everybody profits from it without requiring that intimate level of trust and giving a full permissions item. They can even, and this is the amazing thing, they can even do it without even asking those other people. They could, someone like, I actually love the example of designing an entire cityscape. You design a cityscape by buying, buildings from 10 different vendors. You put them all in your scene. You buy props from another, dozen builders. You buy plants and trees to put around. You buy all this stuff. And by the time you're done setting up your prototype, you've got, 50 different people whose stuff you've bought. And then you sell the whole thing and everybody gets paid. That right there is going to turn Sansar into something more like the real world, real supply chain concepts in the real world. When you stop and think about it for a second, when you go to a restaurant, you buy a meal, think about how many thousands of people you're paying when you pay the check.
Yeah.
There's the guy who, there's that farmer who grew the peas, and paid his workers to pick the peas, and then they go to the big, Del Monte factory or whatever, and then you buy those, and then there's the bread fresh baked down the road, and there are thousands, possibly even millions of people you're paying because of the supply chain. So that is going to, I'm convinced that supply chain, even just the ability to pay people, but supply chain is going to make Sansar, I really think it's going to leapfrog all the other systems out there, including High Fidelity has already got a jump in time. They have a decent way to buy things and pay for services and exchange money, but I really think that's trivial compared to what Linden Lab is planning.
Well, let's hope that Linden Lab is watching this and taking notes, because I agree with you. You've convinced me. I have one final question for you.
Sure.
And that is, what do you think are some of the major challenges and problems that Sansar faces right now?
Gosh, I'd have to really think about that. I mean, this is ridiculous, but I think I've been satisfied lately. I kind of have.
You're a happy camper.
This may sound bad, but I kind of have low expectations. That is. That's going to sound terrible, I know, but
that's fine. We'll edit it out.
No. I mean, I mean this seriously. I mean, Linden Lab. I like to think that I'm being realistic.
Okay.
I see people dive bomb Sansar, try it out for 5 minutes, and then leave, and they're like, "Oh, this is terrible. This is all crap."
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too.
First, I think a lot of those people are operating in bad faith. They've already made a decision, but setting that aside. A lot of people are simply expecting all the things that took a decade and a half to create. It actually took longer for Linden Lab, more like 2 decades to create, to suddenly magically be here in Sansar. And I'm like, that's not realistic. But some of this is, I want all those other things too. I keep asking for them. We get.
But what do you want? Meetings. What's on your wish list? What do you really want?
I'm so focused on small things right now. We just had a product meetup a little while ago, and I was asking for, can you make it so I can move a thing from here to here over a certain amount of time? But I mean, like everybody else, I want all the things other people are asking for, like animation, animations for avatars, being able to attach an avatar to a moving thing. That would certainly help me with hover.
Oh yeah, for vehicles, yeah, definitely.
I want to be able to take an animated, mesh that does whatever and pick it up and move it like an action figure, move it around. To tell you the truth, I spend a lot more time thinking about what can I make and what can I enable other people to do. One of the big things on my list is making non-playing characters. And we're just a handful of little tricks away from being able to make NPCs.
Well, I was talking with Medhugh a couple days ago. He was showing me the Scurry Waters experience, and he's done some amazing things already.
I really have. Yeah, he and Bagnaria have done fantastic work.
Yeah.
I think that Okay, I'm going to make a bold claim here. Something that a lot of people who swoop in and rush out are going to totally disagree with me, but I really want everyone to have an open mind. My claim is that Sansar is already better than Second Life in many ways. It's still missing a lot of things that well, for starters, I deal with real time movements of things and stuff.
Okay.
Yes, and in Second Life, there's a lot you can do with scripts, but you cannot do what I can do here in Sansar. Already. That's right. We have vastly faster computers that run these experiences. You talk to MedHue, you'll say, come to Scurry Waters, and we've got well over 100 animated meshes here, and it's all running just fine. We have vast amounts of space to work with. We have amazing rendering and lighting models and such. I mean, there is just so much here that is way ahead of what Second Life has to offer.
Well, that's good to hear. That's great.
I'm going to say at the same time, if you're loving Second Life right now and you're loving what you're doing, stay there. It's all good.
Yeah.
You don't need to rush here now. If you come here now, it's for creators. It is for early adopters who are willing to suffer, missing some things.
Yeah, it's beta.
Amazing.
I mean, they're not taking the beta tab off of it yet. So.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in to speak with me today.
My pleasure.
Again, I'm Ryan Schultz. This is Metaverse Newscast, and thank you for watching.